What's up, what's up, what's up? It's Friday. I'm so glad about that. Um, Took 3.3 grams of Kratom yesterday, so I'm still down to 5 capsules per day. Um, Again, my daytimes are kind of starting to level out. I'm still struggling a little bit at night. I wouldn't say struggling because I am taking um, a little bit of kava and also a melatonin at night to help me sleep. And that's pretty much doing the job. I mean, I do have some periods of time where I'm, still feeling kind of the discomfort, like in the chest and the stomach. It's almost like it's a craving because my body just hasn't completely gotten accustomed to, the lower amount of kratom that I'm giving it. But my guess is that it's going to be that way until, I put a few days in between, the dropping my dose. And again, I've been being pretty aggressive throughout this process. In many cases, dropping, a gram or so per day. And when you're doing a taper, it's supposed to be, if you want to avoid the withdrawals, it's supposed to be more like a slow taper. And I've not really been doing that. And that's my fault, but it's one of those things where I just kind of want to be quicker with it. I want to address a couple of comments that I had. One in particular, Real was Rare, my dude. I'm still pulling for you. He talked to me this morning. This guy has been off of the MITs for almost as long as I have at this point. I guess it's going on a month, or right about that he's been off of the MITs. He still is on the kratom powder, trying to taper, if I'm not mistaken, off of the kratom powder. And he expressed this morning that, he's, I guess, a little frustrated because he's taking 13 grams one day, the next day might be 7 grams, and then he's got days where it seems like he's, taking 3 grams or so every hour, was his wording. So in other words, he's just having a hard time maintaining a specific amount. He's just kind of, up and down with it. And he did mention too that he's had a lot of stress going on. He's got a brand new baby at home. So hey, congratulations on that. And I want to say, when he said that, dude, it hit me right here because I'm telling you now, I remember that. And I shared this with him when I responded to his comment. When my son, and I'm ashamed to say this, I really am. I only have one child, and he's almost 17 years old now, and he's doing really well, and I feel blessed for that. But when he was born almost 17 years ago, that is when I was just about in my peak of my addiction to Percocets, Vicodin, stuff, these hard, higher level painkillers. And I was really kind of in the depths of despair, addiction, and depression at that time when he was born. So for me, it was one of those bittersweet periods of my life. Here I have being born my only child, because like I said, I only have one child, and that's my son, who's now almost 17. But I remember during that time, inside my heart and inside my mind, just feeling so conflicted because here's this beautiful baby boy that I'm so in love with and that I love and would just do anything for and take a bullet for. And I just, the love that I had for this child was just literally unable to be contained in this, 6-foot body. It's just one of those things you can't even put words. And for all of you out there who have children, you understand what I mean. You can't even put words to how much you love your children, and your children will never understand. And that's why parents always say to children, well, when you have kids, you'll understand. And then as a kid, you're always like, no, I won't understand. I'm not gonna be like that to my kids. But then you are. And then you end up saying the same thing to your kids. Well, when you have kids, you'll understand. I just love you too much. I just want this, I want that for you. And it's just something that is natural of being a parent. So when my dude said that to me, I was like, wow, dude, I feel you. I feel you. And that is stressful, having a new baby at home, and you want to be up to the task, and it has to be very conflicting, knowing that you're kind of struggling with this addiction to something on one hand, but then on the other hand, you want to be the best father that you can. And I don't know a lot about your background in particular, my dude, in terms of, whether you're still with mom. I'm assuming you guys are, and how long you guys have been together and all that. But, it's, I feel you, but I just want you to keep your head up, try not to make a mountain out of a molehill. I want you to understand and realize that you, my friend, are a short week or 2 weeks away from all of this being behind you in terms of physically. Now, there's going to be some extension of the emotional part of it, and just if you decide to come off of the Kratom altogether, that's going to take a little while. The physical habit of it can go away pretty quickly. You can be done with this in a week, 2 weeks. But, the emotional side of it and deciding whether you're going to stay off of it permanently and all that, and fighting the urges, which I've talked about before. The urges to take Kratom are, in a lot of ways, it's harder to stay off of Kratom than it was to stay off of, pain pills and, which I don't know this personally, but heroin and things like that are not as readily available. As you know, Kratom is very readily available. You can buy it in gas stations, you can buy it in head shops, all within a stone's throw of your house. If you're anywhere like me, I can go 10 minutes up the road and there's 2 head shops right there that have everything I would want in terms of Kratom products. So that does make it somewhat more challenging. But I want to say to you, hey, dude, don't be discouraged. You're within, a week or 2 of putting all these, physical withdrawals and stuff behind you. And I also wanted to point to a comment that his username is Don't Be Fooled. I mentioned him before. He made a really wise comment yesterday, and it was one that really even spoke to me. And he was saying that as humans, we have a superpower. And the superpower that you have as a human, that all humans have, is the ability to adapt. And he also mentioned that if you give yourself 7 days, off of Kratom, completely off of Kratom, that fear, when you wake up in the morning, when you stop taking something like Kratom or another opiate, when you wake up in the morning, you kind of have that fear and depression of like, it literally is. When he described it as a fear, I was like, boom, mind blown. I was like, wow, that's actually really true. That's a great way to describe it. You almost have this fear of living your day or facing your day without that constant companion, whether it be Kratom or something else that you've been using to lift your mood and boost your mood and stuff like that you've been using for a year, 2 years, 3 years. Some people 5, 10 years have been using this, as a mood booster, and then all of a sudden that gets taken away, and you have this underlying fear of like, it's almost like living without your best friend. It's like if I woke up tomorrow and I didn't have my wife anymore, I would just be, devastated. And I hate to make that comparison, but it is in some ways, although maybe not on the same scale, it is in some ways similar to that. But he mentioned that after 7 days, that fear that you start to feel of not having that thing in your life anymore starts to go away. And you start to do what? As a human, you start to adapt to it. And that was a very, very wise comment by him. And I told him that I was going to use it in my video, and so I'm using that. And rare is real. I want you to think about that, and I want you to think about that comment. That humans have the ability to adapt to some crazy, unusual circumstances. And so I can tell you now that how you might feel when you're not taking the Kratom. And he talked about, you know, he's glad that he's off of the MITs, and he remembers that when he, you know, when he would wake up in the morning and he didn't have an MIT, it was just, he just felt horrible until he could go get one and get one in his system. And now that he's on the Kratom powder, that feeling is less. He doesn't feel as bad because he's not taking as much of the Kratom, because, you know, the Kratom powder has less alkaloid in it, obviously, so you don't become quite as physically addicted to it. But he said he still has that, you know, if he's not taking it, he just doesn't feel all that well. Well, that's not going to last forever, my dude. And it's one of those things where I don't know what your situation is in terms of your work, you know, what you do for work, how much responsibility you have at your job, things like that. It could possibly be that quitting cold turkey could be a good option for you, so you can just go ahead and move past it quicker. Because as we all know, when you're tapering, you have to remain committed to only taking a certain amount each time. It needs to be capsules, so that you can measure out and stay on top of and be aware of exactly how much you're taking, so that you can systematically cut that down little by little by little by little until you're completely off of it. You know, it can't be, when you're tapering, it can't be one of these where you're doing this and you're doing that. And that's kind of what he described to me. Hey, my dude, I'm definitely not judging you, because I've done some of this too, and including very recently I did that. Not yesterday, but the day before, actually. And I didn't talk about this in the day that I did the video that I was doing. I didn't talk about this because my schedule was a little bit different that day, so I didn't have much time to talk. So I just kind of zipped through and told what my previous day experience was. But on Wednesday, you know, I had to go to a job fair and talk to a bunch of kids about possibly, you know, when they get out of school, coming straight into the workforce, working for the company that I work for. That's not what I do. I'm an administrator. I'm a production administrator. That's what I do for a living. And so I'm not an HR person. I'm not a human resources person. But our operations manager was not able to go that day. He was supposed to go and help talk to the kids at the job fair. He was not able to because he had an emergency dentist appointment. So the owner asked me to go in his place. I had never done anything like that. So this was something that was completely new to me, and I wanted to feel well, you know, and I wanted my mood to be up a little bit. And so I actually took a couple of gummies that day. I took it wasn't an extract, but I took one of these, I can't even remember what you call them now, but it's got actual Kratom powder in it, and then some liquid, and you shake it up really well, and then shoot that down. Not nearly as strong as like the MITs. And I could tell that because I drank the whole thing and I barely felt anything. But nonetheless, that particular day on Wednesday, I didn't, you know, I took more than the 3.3 grams that I've been taking every other day this week. So I'm definitely not judging you, because I've done some of this as well. You know, a little bit more one day, a little bit less the next. You know, so it is difficult to taper. But to be able to taper, you know, you're going to have to be able to put some good periods of time together where you're staying on the same amount every day. And I will suggest just trying to make it like, make a schedule for yourself. You know, and again, I don't know what your work schedule is. When you have the same work schedule every day, I think it becomes a little easier to cut out a schedule for yourself and then keep that schedule. I don't know if you're able to do that, but if you are able to do that, you know, set a schedule. Take it the same time every morning, take the same time in the afternoon, and the same time in the evenings every day, like clockwork. Do that every day. And then what you can do is, as you start to taper and cut down, you start to cut a little bit off of your morning dose. Start with the morning dose, and, you know, cut a little bit of that down every 3 or 4 days, and then till eventually you're completely skipping your morning dose. This is what I've been doing. Because I haven't been, in the last couple of weeks, I haven't really been taking any in the morning at all. On the weekends, a couple of times I did, but during the week, I've not been taking any Kratom in the morning. And this week, in particular, I haven't been taking any during the day at all. I've just been taking, except for that on Wednesday that I just talked about. But the rest of the week, I've been going the whole day and afternoon without taking any Kratom. Then I'm just taking my evening dose. But I tapered down to that. You know, I started with just cutting down a little bit of my morning dose, then cutting it down a little more, then cutting it down a little more, until I was just skipping my morning dose altogether. Then I was taking my afternoon dose around 12. And then eventually I started cutting that down to where I was only taking 3 capsules at lunch. Then I was only taking 2 capsules, then 1 capsule. Then I just stopped taking it in the morning, and I stopped taking my afternoon dose. And then I just started taking it in the evenings when I get home. And, you know, it took me a good month and a half to kind of work my way down to that. And it wasn't a straight linear approach either. It was kind of like I just talked about. It was more like I was doing good, and then I kind of went here on the weekend, and then I went down again, and then I went here a little bit. You know, I did a little bit of that. But overall, I've made some good progress. I mean, I'm down to basically a little over 3 grams per day of Kratom, and that's a marked improvement from taking 2 or 3 MIT extracts every day just a couple of months ago. So I have no complaints there. But if you're not in a position where you can do cold turkey and you have to be on point, you have to be on your P's and Q's day in and day out, I understand it may not be the move for everyone. It is the faster way to get back to baseline, depending on how much you're taking. You know, 13 grams of Kratom every day. You know, after 6-7 days, if you were to do cold turkey, after 6-7 days, mostly your physical withdrawals would you'd probably be through with those, including starting to sleep again and stuff like that. It's one of those things where you would have to sack up, you know, pull up your bootstraps and just accept that the next 7 days are probably going to suck pretty bad. You would have to be in a position where you can do that. And if you're not willing to do that, then if you want to come off of it, you're just gonna have to stick to some level of a taper to eventually get off of it. Or, you know, it depends on who I'm talking to. There's people out there that have no intention of even coming off of Kratom. And if that's the case, and if you're good with that, then, you know, obviously this advice is not for you. But anyway, just wanted to offer a little bit of encouragement there to a couple of my listeners. And don't be fooled. Thank you for your comment. Jonas, thank you too. He's been commenting on my videos, and he talked about today that he's taking the OPMS blacks, but the approach he takes is he rarely ever takes the extracts. He takes powder 90% of the time, is what he said. So, and if you're a person that is able to control that, and you're able to just on a regular basis just take the powder and then just every once in a while shoot a little bit of the extract, and you're good with that, cool. You know, that's cool. I wasn't really able to do that. I was one of those people that once I got on those extracts, the powder just didn't even do it for me anymore compared to the extracts. And I talked about this yesterday. I would have capsules at home, plenty of capsules at home, and then I would still find myself wanting to stop and get an MIT extract, even though I had tons of Kratom capsules at home. You know, and that's just me. That's just kind of the sort of addictive mentality and personality I have. I'm like all or nothing. I'm 100% or 0%. That's just kind of the type of person I am. But anyway, I appreciate your comment as well. So anyway, watch my videos. If you haven't seen any of my previous videos, I go through a lot of specifics about how to taper off of Kratom, things that you can do to help with the tapering process so that the withdrawals aren't quite as bad, or that you can, you know, skip them altogether. So go back and watch those if it's something that you're interested in doing. And I really appreciate you guys watching the video again. This is Corey, and like the video and subscribe to the channel. I will see you next time. All right, peace.